It takes about 10 seconds. All right, we are all set, Senator French.
Nice, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome you all. I am Harold French, Senator from District 7. Today, being 1 p.m., we will be holding a meeting of the Senate Commerce Committee. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the Right to Know law. As chair of the Commerce Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is still in full force, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remote.senate@leg.state.newhampshire.us or call 603-271-6931. Operators standing by. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote only. Finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call of attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. We'll start the roll call. Senator Bradley.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I am in our home in Wolfboro alone in the room.
Senator Susie.
Good afternoon. This is Donna Susie. I am at my home in Manchester and I am alone.
Senator Gannon.
I'm Senator Bill Gannon. I'm in sunny Sandown. Well, it's a little sunny. Shovel ready, ready to go. And I am in Sandown. My kids may wander through who are Zooming at home.
And Senator Kavanaugh.
Hello, Kevin Kavanaugh at my home in Manchester, and I'm currently alone. My family will be in and around.
And I am Senator French. I am in my studio production center in my home in Canterbury, and I am alone at this time. So we've got 3 items on the agenda today. Just a note, we're going to be handling Senate Bill 62 and 64 today. Senate Bill 63, we are going to open and recess immediately and bringing up next week. Senator Guider, the prime sponsor, has an amendment that's not ready and he asked us to delay it for 1 week. So we've got 2 bills and then we will probably most likely go into executive session. So to start with, I'd like to open Senate Bill 62 and have the prime sponsor, Senator Waters, introduce it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committees. I trust you can hear me all right.
We can, thank you.
And thank you. I'm Senator David Waters, District 4, and I'm here introducing Senate Bill 62. I sent to you an amendment earlier, and I hope that you have that, and that is what I will be speaking to. I brought forward this bill in part working with Dover Youth to Youth, whom you will be hearing from shortly. The bill has two parts, and I'll talk about each one in sequence. The first one is removing flavorings from e-cigarette liquids. And this is because of what is occurring in the state and nationwide in terms of these flavorings. E-cigarettes have become the primary addiction delivery device for tobacco, and flavorings have really become the kind of gateway for both youth and for adult use of nicotine products. And this is particularly important in New Hampshire because of where we are on tobacco and e-cigarette use. 5.5% of high schoolers, for example, smoke. That's higher than the 4.6 across the country. But in New Hampshire, 33.8% of high schoolers use e-cigarettes, while across the country, it's only 19.6%. So a third of our high schoolers. And this is really troubling if you look at the statistics from New Hampshire over the last few years, that we had made great progress on smoking. And then with the extensive marketing to young people by the e-cigarette industry, we have really lost the progress that we have made. And the implications of this are pretty dire for New Hampshire. Across the country, the adults who smoke is 14%, but it's 15.9% in New Hampshire. And just to say right now that, you know, with these statistics that children who are now under 18 in New Hampshire who will die from smoking, it's 22,000 of them. And we're losing 1,900 adults a year to smoking, and the health costs annually in New Hampshire to that are $729 million, plus toss on top of that $506 million a year in productivity lost. So the bill comes forward right now for a couple of reasons in particular. We've seen a dramatic increase in the use of e-cigarettes among young people during the COVID, and particularly in middle schools, as you hear about. Now, I know we raised the smoking age to 21, and I'm sure that eventually will begin to have an effect. But because the other factor here is the extensive marketing that continues by the industry to young people. The tobacco industry spent $84.5 million marketing tobacco products, e-cigarettes, to New Hampshire alone in the last year. And if you happen to watch the kind of ubiquitous TV ads for e-cigarettes on New Hampshire's cable available stations, you'll see that they are really pointed towards young people in particular. So, you know, e-cigarettes then really are the primary addiction delivery device. And as you're going to hear from Youth to Youth, and as all the national data will show, that this is through flavorings. That young people and older people as well, adults, try these because of the flavorings oftentimes. And that because of the statistics I've just given you, it's pretty clear that people are starting their nicotine addiction through e-cigarettes rather than through smoking. And, you know, we don't hear much anymore from the industry about how this is a smoking cessation device or nicotine reduction device. That claim used to be made a lot, but the industry has never gone to the FDA asking for approval of it as a smoking delivery device. I think in part because they know the research shows that the deleterious effects of e-cigarettes far outweigh any scant evidence there is that they actually help people quit. I'm sure that anecdotally that is true for some, but as we're seeing now, that it has become the prime addiction device as well. We're also, this bill is part of what's happening around the country. There are bans on flavorings, including menthol, from California through Massachusetts, some 300 municipalities, quite a few states as well, and I'm sure we'll see more of those. I mean, ironically, we do know that since Massachusetts banned menthol, we've seen a real spike in our cross-border sales, and you know, it's unfortunate whether we become the place that continues to provide addictive substances that are flavored, not just to people who come across the border, but people in our states as well. And on this part of the bill, I'd just like to close by saying something about the nature of addiction. We talk about addiction in individuals and the strategies that are going to say, well, I'll just have it this flavor, I'll just do this, or I'm really trying to stop. And, we're very familiar with these behaviors. And I think on the industry side, though, we're seeing some of the same addictive behavior as well, that they keep shifting grounds and trying to find excuses to say that this is okay because it's menthol, or this is okay because it's that, or this is okay because we're, wink, wink, not really marketing it to young people. So I think the bill is, it's very clear on the public health benefit and in terms of what we want to do, not just for young people, but for adults as well in banning these flavorings. I'd like to move on now to the waste disposal part of this bill. And I want to start by thanking Mike Wimsat from DES for working very closely with me on being able to address the waste problem that we have in a way that would not imply extra costs for the department and would be doable as well. The issue here is that there are in the e-cigarette cartridges lithium-ion batteries, and as you know from many other kind of uses, that they can burst into flame. And what there are a lot of reports around the countries from the materials recycling facilities where the trash comes in, and they have people who have to sort through that there are reports now of burns, of fires that are being started at the materials recycling facilities. So that's a problem for the waste industry. The other issue with the cartridges are the toxic and hazardous materials that are in them. There are reports that there are lead in some of these. Nicotine itself is a hazardous material, as we know, so remnants of nicotine, but there are other materials within the liquid and then within the construction of the cartridge. So, we have a lot of materials that are like this. And so what the bill does is specifies that the e-cigarette cartridges are ones that people ought to be aware of. And so what the bill does is that it asks the manufacturers to provide New Hampshire with information about what hazardous materials, and we do this for a lot of industries, to the department, and that they would figure out a way to have procedures and requirements so that, because some of this reporting is already going in certain ways to the federal government, that we'd be able to ask the industry to provide what they already have to us. And then secondly, DES will make available educational materials for use by municipalities on potential hazardous waste and its disposal, and some guidance to manufacturers and retailers that, as it's, and I think quite possible, programs will develop among manufacturers and retailers for collection and disposal of the cartridges. And what's crucial here is on that last line 22, to the extent such programs exist. So the bill is not asking the DES to invent new programs or telling New Hampshire retailers, you got to start to have a bin for these, you got to collect them. No, it's saying that when these programs, as they exist and become available, that DES will be able to provide materials to municipalities and to retailers to say, hey, here's a way to deal with these hazardous wastes. So that's it, the two parts. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Questions from the committee? Senator Gannon?
Thanks. Thank you, Senator, for joining us tonight. Good to talk to you. Two questions. One, I misplaced your bill that I had 15 minutes ago, and it's in my pile here somewhere. What's the difference between the federal ruling of a year or two ago and what you're trying to do on this bill? Aren't they already addressing all the flavored stuff's gone, right? The candy flavored bubble gum. So now we're left with menthol and tobacco, correct?
The federal guidance, they just issued a new guidance, I believe in October. They issued initial guidance in January last year, and then additional guidance in October on this. And the menthol is still available in some of the federal guidance, and this is why states are acting pretty quickly now to add that as banned. You know, California by referendum most recently did it. Massachusetts, as you know, last year. Several other states have passed and are implementing laws now. So, you know, like with smoking 21, I think this is coming. So really the question, the reason for the bill is that, you know, if we know this is a problem, why not help our young people right now? You know, why, given those statistics that 22,000 are going to be dead who are using the high scores or others using it, and that 1,900 adults a day are dying. And this is we have higher smoking rates, higher e-cigarette rates, way higher than other parts of the country. It's a public health issue that, you know, sometimes you don't wait on the federal government. You do what's best for New Hampshire people right now.
Quick follow-up. Two
Go
things.
ahead, Senator.
One
Yeah.
would be, so let's just say tomorrow we had no more e-cigarettes. Your correlation between 22,000 kids sometime dying, you really are sort of drawing an arrow that you shouldn't, because they could just go back to cigarettes, correct? Or something else?
Well, thanks for your question, Senator. And I, you know, ask this to youth because, and I'll speak to it, but I think they will too. That what we're seeing is that smoking itself has been declining and continues to decline. E-cigarettes, though, are something that are very appealing, especially when they were flavored, to young people. And I think to a lot of adults too, who don't realize that you are addicted much more quickly in e-cigarette device than you would be with cigarettes. And that people tend to kind of try it. You know, the advertising, as I'm sure you've seen on TV, makes it look like this is cool. And they have young people at parties, and this is a cool thing to do. So it is being marketed so much. And I think it really is that e-cigarettes are becoming the primary means by which people get addicted to nicotine. So, you know, hey, are people going to probably still try to find ways to do it? Yes, but, you know, we found that if you diminish diminish the numbers of people who are at the start, that the older you get, the less and less likely you are to take up smoking or use of e-cigarettes and get addicted. The statistics show that we got a real big problem with these cigarettes. This is not going to ban them, of course. You know, it just says, you know, since you're going to hear that menthol and the flavorings are really what draw the people in, and that you know, if we eliminate that, it probably will do some good.
Quick follow-up.
One more, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. So you were asking at the end for information from the industry. Should we maybe put this bill on hold till we find that out? Question.
Oh, I think it's there. Thank you for your question. It's there because this is going to be evolving. You know, what they have in their products, and it gives DES a way to you know, get what's available, and then as they produce new information because they produce new products, that we would get that. So we ought to, you know, people ought to know now if there's lead in them for particular, right? I mean, you know, all we've done, Senator, on lead, and that's bad news. And as reports are coming in, and hey, there is lead in these devices, but we know there's also other hazard materials in them already, and it's a public, you know, it's a public consumer right to know.
Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions? Then thank you very much, Senator, for your testimony.
Thank you. I have to get to another meeting, so please do follow up if the committee members have any further questions, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Jen?
Okay, first up, we have Claire Roy.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Claire Roy, and I'm a member of Dover Youth to Youth, and I'm here speaking in favor of Senate Bill 62. So Dover Youth to Youth is an extracurricular drug prevention and advocacy program in Dover, New Hampshire, and we have over 40 members. There are many reasons why we think this bill is important. Flavorings within electronic cigarettes are attractive to kids. And with young brains being more susceptible to damage from nicotine products, having these products flavored like candy flavorings with cotton candy or chocolate entices kids to try them. Kids and teens being addicted to nicotine is a big concern for us, as their brains are not fully developed and are more significantly impacted by this powerful drug. From our experience as students and from what we hear from our peers, most students who use e-cigarettes choose to use products with flavors. In my observation specifically, when it comes to e-cigarettes in the high school I go to, very few kids are using the tobacco flavorings. They're using the fun flavors like cherry or fruit punch or bubblegum. And when I walk into the bathroom, I usually smell a mixture of very potent scents like chocolate or mango from different kids' vapes. I believe that these flavors make these products significantly more attractive to kids. In addition to making kids think that they're way less harmful than they actually are, because in a teen's mind, it doesn't seem like something that tastes like gummy bears or chocolate could realistically be that bad for you. Additionally, flavorings themselves can actually make e-cigarettes more dangerous. Flavorings can contain chemicals that are safe for consumption, but not for inhalation. One of the better known examples of this is diacetyl, which is a buttery flavoring often used in microwave popcorns. Though diacetyl is safe for consumption, inhaling it can cause a condition called bronchiolitis obliterans, better known as popcorn lung, because workers in factories used to inhale diacetyl fumes, which developed this condition. This damages the smaller airways in the lungs, causing shortness of breath and coughing, but can also lead to more serious lung issues. Making flavorings in electronic cigarettes illegal will help to deter some kids from using these products. Many students start using nicotine products because of these flavorings, so making them illegal will help to reduce the number of youth using these kinds of products. This is part of the reason that we support the amendment to Senate Bill 62 to also ban menthol as a flavor. Keeping menthol is like allowing sort of a loophole for teenagers. Menthol is the flavor kids will go to when they don't have the candy flavorings anymore. Tobacco is a much less attractive flavor than menthol, so having tobacco be the only available flavor on the market will deter some kids from continuing use and others from starting use in the first place. According to recent Youth Risk Behavior Survey data, the 30-day use rate for high school students was 33.8 in 2019. If flavorings were banned across the board, including menthol, this number is likely to go down. In early February of 2020, the National Food and Drug Administration announced a federal flavor ban. Though this was a great step, the ban only covered specific devices with nicotine cartridges, very similar to the ones made popular by Juul. It did not ban flavorings in vaping devices where the user fills the reservoir, and also devices that are disposable. This means that there are still many other flavored product options available to teens. As soon as Juul had to remove flavors, the Puff Bar disposable e-cigarette became a big seller and very popular among teens. Banning flavorings is not a new idea. Other states are passing similar legislation. For example, in 2019, the state of Massachusetts became the first state to impose restrictions on the sale of all flavored tobacco products. This included the sale of menthol cigarettes and cigars, and menthol as an e-cigarette flavoring. In 2020, California also passed similar legislation. Several other states, including Rhode Island, New York, and New Jersey, followed, passing laws ending the sale of flavored e-cigarette products in their states. Even Los Angeles and Sacramento have passed legislation at a local level banning the sale of all flavored tobacco products. Some people will argue that adults are also using these devices, or that people are utilizing them as cessation devices to help them quit nicotine products. Removing these flavors will not prevent them from continuing. In addition, adults with young children that use these devices run the risk of those children ingesting e-liquids because they smell like candy or they smell attractive to them, which can lead to nicotine poisoning. Having these flavored products around poses a danger to all, as the health risks of some of these flavorings for kids are the same risks present for adults. We also support the environmental provisions of SB 62 as common sense steps to allow you to protect New Hampshire's water and environment from the contents of these batteries and devices. In conclusion, we strongly encourage you to ban flavorings and e-cigarette products to protect the health of teens within our communities. Thank you for your time, and I would be glad to answer any questions now.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Jen?
Senator French, I did want to let the committee know I did send the amendment over from Senator Waters.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay.
Anyone have that? Okay.
Okay, up next we have Gaetano Putignano.
Yes, hi there. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. My name is Gaetano Putignano. I'm the owner of 802 E-Cig Supply Incorporated. We currently have a shop in Walpole, New Hampshire. So you'll probably know that my business name is 802, which is the area code in Vermont. So I'll first start with my experience with e-cigarettes or vaping. It was about 8 years ago. I had really tried again to quit smoking cigarettes, and I lost all my grandparents to lung cancer, my father-in-law to throat cancer. I could not stop smoking cigarettes. I was hypnotized. I tried every product available, and they just didn't work. Picked up a cheap one years ago, got a better one, August 13th, 2013 was my last tobacco cigarette. Back then, there weren't many around. I do a lot of research. Ended up selling them out of my basement, which led to starting a business in my hometown in a vacant storefront, which led to another location in Brattleboro, Vermont, and a third one in Ludlow, Vermont. I built these businesses. I ended up testifying in Montpelier 2 to 7 times a year, similar to here, which got me involved in local politics. Currently the chairman of our select board here in town. I'm passionate about things I believe in. So Vermont passed 2 years ago. They finally passed their 92% tax on e-liquid. From 2 of my shops, you can see New Hampshire. I love Vermont. I used to love Vermont. I chose to operate in Vermont. I moved across to New Hampshire. And with that, filled another vacant storefront in a busy shopping plaza. I brought 100% of my Vermont customers, who are all adults. In Vermont, we used to have, like they would do a sting 3 to 7 times a year. They would come in. We used to get awards from them, awards from local prevention groups, 0 sales to minors. I've never sold to minors. We don't sell on the internet. We're a retail store where we provide these products for adults. It's an adult's choice, I believe, to use these products. So we left Vermont, and then all 3 of those storefronts are still vacant. They don't receive income tax, sales tax, utilities from those locations. So we're here in New Hampshire. I came up last year and testified. And then, one thing I'd like to thank Senator Gannon for his questions for the first speaker there. I'd like to see some sources for some of that. I'm not going to dispute that testimony, but so I'm a pro board National Certified Firefighter 2. I'm an EMT. I'm a pro board nationally certified fire instructor 1. I'm 50 years old, if I didn't mention that yet. I exercise vigorously 6 times a week. I run 8-minute miles. My doctor says my lungs look like that of a non-smoker. I choose to use these products because it's my choice. We heard some testimony about nicotine. So people smoke for the nicotine, but they die from the smoke and tar. So Wednesday night, I'm putting on a training for the fire department. It'll be a live fire training where there will be smoke and fire, combustion, the act of combustion. We will go on air. We'll put our mask on with our 30-minute bottles and breathe our air because smoke is bad. I also do trainings where I use a fog machine, which is essentially one of the same main ingredients that are in e-liquid. You can breathe that without being on air. There's a big difference between the 2. So I just feel like, I can see Vermont from where I'm sitting right now. And when we cross the bridge on our motorcycles, my wife also rides a motorcycle. We take our helmets off. It's our choice as adults to make that decision. I served this country in the United States Marine Corps to fight for our freedoms. And I just believe in adults making their choice. And I never used a tobacco flavored e-liquid. I'm not interested in a tobacco flavored e-liquid. I've used a strawberry style flavor the entire time. I don't drink or use drugs for over 20 years. This is what I enjoy. If an adult wants to use these products, they should be available. Prohibition doesn't work. We should keep this very well regulated. Everyone that you'll hear, I believe, that's in this industry are responsible in providing these products safely. We all know a whole lot about it, and we do a really good job maintaining the service to provide these products to adults, should they make that choice. I could speak for a long time on this, but I'll yield my time.
Great, thank you so much. I do have a question for you, though. Can these be sold through the mail?
Sold, you mean shipped?
Shipped.
So currently federal law, state law in Vermont is illegal to ship to Vermont. So things are changing on the federal level. I don't sell on our website. There was some recent development in how they'll be shipped. The USPS will no longer be shipping these products. That was part of the 5,000-page stimulus bill that was rolled in there. I believe FedEx will be following. So as far as, there's a big sign on my door that says 21 plus to enter. We're not providing these products to children. 2 doors down from this shop is a New Hampshire state liquor store where you can go in there and buy grape flavored Mad Dog 2020 and 2 cartons of Pyramid cigarettes. If you're an adult, I guess that's your right. But I think to answer your question, we don't ship. It's getting more difficult. So it was federal law passed where you have to provide 3 forms of identification. Should you buy on the internet? I believe in fair regulation, but also going after the people who break the law. When I was underage and we got caught drinking, we got in trouble. The person who provided it got in trouble. So if people are not following the law now, we have good laws in place to prevent youth from getting these products.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions from the committee? Senator Bradley.
Can you hear me now, Senator French?
Yep.
Okay, so thank you very much for your testimony. I have a question about Section 2 and the disposal. Being in the industry, do you have an issue with this section of the bill?
So if I understand correctly, I'm also a hazmat technician. I'm nationally certified hazmat technician. So, I don't know, the same lithium ion batteries that we sell, it's called an 18650. I use the same battery in my flashlight on my helmet for firefighting. These aren't e-cigarette batteries. And when someone buys new ones here, we'll take the old ones, we put them in a cardboard container and bring them to the recycling center. I don't see lead leaking into our water systems from e-cigarettes. I'm a little confused on that part.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Bradley,
I'm all right.
you're all set. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. If you're going to be testifying today, we've got a lot of people wishing to speak. I ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, and we're ready to go. Thank you, Jen.
Okay, next up is Victor Vitale.
All right, it's my first time Zooming, so I think I did that right. Everyone can hear me?
No,
No, really?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. So my name's Victor Vitale. I'm sure you've all seen me around the State House and the LOB a few times. I promise that this will be very, very, very short. I actually have the short version of my written testimony that I submitted earlier today. And I took a few notes from the earlier testimonies that I would like to raise a few points on after my brief, very brief, I promise, very brief verbal testimony here. So is it okay to proceed?
Yes, yes. Keep it half the length of your intro. We're all set. Thank you.
All right. I got you. All right. So just a little bit about the vape industry. I'm not sure what you know. Some people know more than others. So we're actually, as you can tell, some of us are very confused about why a vape ban is even being considered in the first place. So because flavored vape is a progressive technology that's effectively stopping big tobacco in their tracks. So, you know, to all of us, I mean, that's a major feat in itself. Why would you want to ban it just for that reason alone? As Gaetano had mentioned, NRTs, which is nicotine replacement therapy, has been failing smokers for years. The success rate of the patch is so low that it's actually a big joke. You may not know this. It's actually a good point. It's a big joke among smokers who get it for free at the expense of our state healthcare system and use it to smoke at the same time to get an extra buzz. So, I mean, that kind of tells you what the effectiveness of the patch is. As a nation, I think that we've been waiting for decades for something like flavored vape. It's actually the cure to the smoking epidemic, which is a big problem as a nation and globally. Why would we want to stop people from quitting smoking? As a country, we're talking about healthcare for all as a human right. Isn't the right to choose your nicotine replacement just as important? Even when especially when the science and the data shows that it's 99% less harmful. That's a fact. Are we as a state going to ban flavored vape so that the cigarette companies get all of their customers back? I'm not sure if you've thought about it like that, but that's what's going to happen. If you ban flavored vape, you'll be contributing directly to all of those cigarette deaths per year. I don't have to tell you what the numbers are. We've stated them several times. You probably already know. People will go right back to smoking and they'll get right back in line to die from it. So you probably know that there's a brand new vape tax that just started back in 2020, and it's generating revenue beyond anyone's wildest expectations. That's a lot of revenue for the state budget. It's a lot of money. In this bill, Senate Bill 62, menthol remains legal. Now, I haven't seen the amended version, but to my knowledge, menthol remains legal. Did you know that Juul menthol is big tobacco's biggest seller? And that it's mostly sold at convenience stores, gas stations, and pharmacies like Walgreens? Did you know that pharmacies and Walgreens are the #1 offender to selling to minors? To enter a vape store, you have to be 21. And according to the Liquor Commission, vape stores in New Hampshire are actually the #1 preventer to getting, to prevent minors from getting nicotine.
Mr. Vitale, I'm very sorry, but your 3 minutes has expired.
Well, I have a little bit more to go here. So if you don't mind, it's actually very brief. Just let me make a few more points. Is that okay?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
appreciate it very much. Okay. I'll skip over some of this other stuff, and I just want to get to a few points. The first point that I want to make is there were some references made to the state of Massachusetts and the state of California. And as a 23-year New Hampshire resident, this one kind of raises the hair on my back a little bit. And what I usually say about that is we live in New Hampshire because we don't like Massachusetts, and Massachusetts folks are moving to New Hampshire because they don't like Massachusetts anymore. So why are we comparing our state to Massachusetts? Next, very quickly, batteries are recycled at almost every vape store, just like Gaetano said. We all take batteries back from folks and we recycle them properly. Next, beyond that, MSDS, material safety data sheets, are readily available to anyone who needs to see them. So are certificate of analysis, readily available. So if you ever need to see what's actually in these products, readily available. Just call me or email some of the folks on this call. Next is, how can I'm genuinely curious here. How can the rate of high school students using e-cigarettes be up when high school students haven't been in class for over a year? How could folks giving testimony say they're smelling chocolate and strawberry in bathrooms when high school students haven't been in school for over a year? That one kind of boggles my mind too. Finally, the senator prior, I think he's the introducer of the bill, had said something about there's not a device that has gone through the smoking cessation channels with the FDA. There actually is a device that's been approved by the FDA for smoking cessation. And guess what? It's owned by Big Tobacco. Furthermore, all of the stuff that the vape stores that you're going to hear from today, the stuff that we sell is currently going through the approval process, and it's set to be approved by the FDA as early as September 2021. That's a fact. There are millions and millions of applications, and we've already heard from the FDA that they plan on approving these products. So, with that said, I appreciate your time very much, and thank you for giving me the extra few minutes.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Susie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vitale, just two quick questions, and I'll ask them both. Do you do only retail sales, or do you do mail order? And also, if I may ask, how many people do you employ?
Okay, so we employ 3 to 5 on any given basis. We do mail order. Most of it is out of the state, but it represents a very, 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 very small, it's under 5% of our total business. And then I'm sorry, Senator, there was a third part to your question that I missed.
No, that was both. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, next up we have,
Thanks for keeping the time, and we'll try to adhere to it.
okay, next up we have Max Hager.
Hi, this is Max. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you all for taking the time to hear us out today. My name is Maxwell Hager. I am 44 years old. I am married with 2 children. I always like to get that out front. 23 years a smoker. Okay. I tried for 7 years to quit. I tried everything, the patch. I did hypnotism. I did 7 years of different techniques. Nothing worked. As before, many family members died of cancer in my family, all smokers. What I tried 7 years ago was vapor, and it worked. It worked, and it helped me, and it helped many around me, okay? It helped us so much that me and my best bud started one store back in 2015. We employ 16 people now between 4 retail locations. This is 16 full-time employees that their families depend on them to bring home a paycheck, okay? This is a retail only. We don't sell online. Every person that walks through our store must be 21. We have a location in Salem and Seabrook. We have locations in Epping and Somersworth. I have first-hand experience on what happens when the regulation interferes with adult freedom of choice. People want flavors. That's adults, not people, adults, everybody. They want to go to a restaurant, they want to have a drink, they want to try something new. They get something with a flavor, a new beer, a new liquor. All of that's regulated, but people want their flavor. 95% of our customer base wants and uses flavored e-liquid to stay off of traditional combustible cigarettes. None of them want to go back to a tobacco flavor, okay? You will only lose the revenue that we've generated by the recent tax implemented in 2020, and customers will continue to get their product, but just get it elsewhere. It won't be in our state, certainly won't be in my store, and if necessary, they'll go to the black market, so nobody will see that. Vapor retailers in New Hampshire have done all that the state has been requesting of us to do. We've worked with you to form the proper legislation and regulation that puts us all in the proper path to having a proper choice. We've got licenses in hand. We've restricted age with no problem. You know, all of us said, go for it. We want to do it. We've then taxed the product, and we've licensed all of the distributors and manufacturers out of state to get a license as well. We strive to do everything right each and every turn, and we're going to continue to do so, but give us the benefit of what the consumer wants, the adult wants, the flavors. This is not about keeping products away from underage. We have made headway on that. T21 is the law of our land. This is about taking away the freedom of choice from an adult. The FDA has already set standards and requirements for any manufacturer to follow. They must submit to the FDA to get approval to even sell their product currently.
Mr. Hager, I'm so sorry, but your time has expired.
If you give me one more moment, I'll be finished. One more minute. Is that okay?
It's up to the chair.
But make it quick.
All right. A New Hampshire law banning flavors will only push consumers to black market products and others. That's where the harm is going to be found. These are less harmful alternatives than traditional cigarettes. Why take away the choice from adults struggling with tobacco addiction to actually use something that's proven to be a much larger success rate? For 5 different years, I've seen the difference it made in people's lives in my store. You can't tell that they stink from being a smoker. You can walk up a flight of stairs. There's no morning cough. And my consumers are doctors, nurses, EMS, fire, police, teachers. They all use these products to stay healthier. Please do not remove the option for flavors. It will decimate my business. It will kill my stores. It will kill all of my employees' jobs. You can't do this in this economic pandemic. Okay, it's hard enough for us to try and go day to day with the rules we have to make sure we're not mentally struggling. If you give somebody an option, they're going to take the easiest one. And what are they going to do? They're going to go back to a harmful addiction. All I'm asking is to allow us the adult freedom. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm free to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I just wish people wouldn't down my smoking habits of regular tobacco. It's making me depressed here, but go ahead, Jen, call the next.
And next up, we have Brett Scott.
Thank you. My name is Brett Scott. I'm the president of the New Hampshire Vapors Association, as well as the president of Smokers Haven. We are a New Hampshire-based company with 10 locations throughout New Hampshire and employ over 100 individuals. We are the type of business this legislation will impact. The proposed legislation will hurt Main Street businesses, as these are products primarily sold at locally owned and operated vape shops, which require customers to be at least 21 years old to enter. As far as the hazardous waste part, that is concerning if it ends up making us fall into the classification of a large quantity generator, as then we would be held to the same standards as massive large corporations. That's my summary of that paragraph. Looking to the impact of several things, including COVID-19, Massachusetts flavor ban, and the tobacco age increasing to 21, they have all influenced our business within the last year. From January 19th, 2021, Ways and Means economic briefing by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue, tobacco tax was referred to, and I quote, one of the shining stars lately, quote. That may be overall case, but there are many factors that play into that statement. The Massachusetts flavor ban played a larger role in upholding the tax revenues for the state overall. Around the same time of the Massachusetts flavor ban, the age to purchase tobacco in New Hampshire was raised to 21. Vape shop sales decreased 30% across New Hampshire. However, the shops on the border saw an increase in Massachusetts customers to offset the 30% decrease from the age being raised to 21. Although it may appear tobacco numbers are up, had the Massachusetts flavor ban not gone into effect, you would have seen a drastic decrease. Quoting the Ways and Means economic briefing by the Department of Revenue Administration, quote, recently Massachusetts banned mentholated products or all flavored tobacco products. That went into effect June 1st, 2020, and we have certainly seen an increase in tobacco tax revenue due to that. We have spoken with not only wholesalers, but also with retailers, and New Hampshire wholesalers have seen an increase in flavored product requests from retailers, and retailers have also mentioned, especially those on the border, an increase in sales. Quote, the increase you see in these numbers are representative of the Massachusetts customers coming to New Hampshire to make these purchases, ultimately benefiting the New Hampshire economy similar to that of tobacco and liquor stores strategically placed to capture cross-border sales. If you look to the locations within 20 minutes of the Massachusetts border, you will see an inflated revenues that positively impact New Hampshire's tobacco tax revenue. But if you look to say north of Manchester, there's been a significant decrease in businesses, and those businesses are seeing decreased revenues due to age increase, pandemic effects of people shifting business online, overall market conditions. There has been a large influx in the amount of those stores opening along the border to meet the current market demand. This creates jobs, help fill vacancies in independently owned retail buildings that are seeing an increase in vacancies from the shift to online sales and COVID-19 impacts. Imposing regulations will result in an oversaturated market with a lack of demand. The surplus of retailers will result in the closures of stores along the borders and throughout the state as the market will adjust to the new demand. If New Hampshire enacts legislation to ban flavored tobacco products, you will see similar outcomes, but not in New Hampshire business favor. It will not prevent people from purchasing these products as new in Massachusetts. The channel of commerce and who receives the economic benefit will change. People will go to the bordering states without a flavor ban, such as Maine and Vermont. The economic benefit goes beyond just the sale of the taxed tobacco product, but can also lead to additional sales for surrounding businesses. This ultimately shifts the advantage to bordering states. Regarding the decision to move to 21 plus, the New Hampshire Vapor Association did not go against this legislation. We believe it is the proper approach and a solution to prevent underage access, yet still offer adults a better alternative to quit smoking. The FDA released their 2020 findings, which state, quote, youth use of any tobacco product declining with an estimated 1.73 million fewer youth using any tobacco product in 2020. Keep in mind that
Scott, Mr.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm so sorry, but your time has expired.
Could I finish the rest of this?
Every time someone goes over it, we have a lot of speakers today. If you can wind it up in 15 seconds, go ahead.
Okay, well, another really valid point I'd like to make is that every product in the market has had to go through the PMTA process. Those applications are being reviewed right now, and you have to prove that your market serves a good purpose to be on the market. It reviews everything from ingredients, labels, and marketing practices, and making sure that they're not appealing to the youth. So I'll leave it at that.
Hey, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Scott, for your testimony. And
Next up, we have Dr. Albie Butnitz.
Can you hear me?
yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me. I'll try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Thanks.
My name is Albie Butnitz, retired internal and pulmonary medicine doctor from Nashua, where I practiced for 40 years until July of 2018. For full disclosure is that because of this experience, I've been in the, quote, tobacco wars since the 1970s and one of Coop's troops, the late Surgeon General C. Everett Koop, for more than 20 years. As chair of Tobacco Free New Hampshire Network, representing various public health agencies, including but not limited to the Heart Association, American Lung Association, American Cancer Society, New Hampshire Medical Society, Breathe New Hampshire, New Futures, American Academy of Pediatrics, and the Koop Institute, North Cotton Cancer Center. I just want to give testimony regarding this very well-meaning, but still mildly flawed bill, even with the amendment. I would like to bring up 9 points that have robust vetted data in relation to the subject at hand. Especially kids, but also adults, move to menthol when other flavors are removed. With menthol removed, that would be great. 81% of youth 12 to 17 years old initiate tobacco use with flavored products, including menthol. The data has been published in peer-reviewed journals for all of this. Like other flavors, menthol makes one's nicotine fix much less harsh and therefore much easier to start and harder to quit. That's true for all flavors. Easier to get your nicotine fix, harder to get off of it. Nicotine is the addicting driving force. Nearly half, that's more than 500,000 youth, and that is with the data from 2020, 12 to 17 years old, are now using menthol cigarettes. So getting that amendment in is excellent. E-cigarette vaping data show that tobacco product users will move on to dual tobacco product use, meaning other tobacco products, with e-cigarettes users 3 to 4 times more likely to go on to using combustible cigarettes than non-tobacco users. Another disparity in flavors, and especially menthol, is that 80% of African-American smokers use menthol cigarettes, whereas less than 30% of white smokers do. And the reason for that is longtime product of tobacco company marketing. And many youth they find now, especially Hispanic youth, who's been a new market for tobacco companies because they've been non-smokers, are starting with flavors, and especially menthol. Combustible cigarettes, however, remain the most efficient, effective drug, in this case, nicotine delivery device known, and they're cheap and they're easily accessible. Also vetted is that nicotine is a gateway drug gateway substance, other substance, opioids, alcohol, and THC use. Finally, you've already heard that tobacco is still the #1 cause of premature death and disability in our country, killing well over 400,000 USA citizens yearly, including 1,900 folks in New Hampshire. So for especially the public health of our kids, what we feel is tobacco products, all flavors and all tobacco products should be banned. The process of FDA regulation needs to be improved. What is going to go through in September 21 will approve tobacco products as mentioned, but that does not mean they're harmless, and that does not mean that they're safe. I'll stop here, and I'm happy to ask, thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take any questions either now, or and I think you have my contact information in my written report, so I'm happy to take questions anytime.
Thank you, Doctor. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony today. Jen?
Next up, we have Hitesh Punjabi.
Hello?
Yes, you should be ready.
Oh, you guys can hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for letting me speak. My name is Hitesh Punjabi. I own a couple stores in New Hampshire. The only reason I came on this group call to talk is because I'm unique. I had a couple stores in Massachusetts and a couple stores in New Hampshire. When the Massachusetts stores closed, obviously it took a big hit. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. All the customers that I know who are in Massachusetts are either buying it online, either going to different states, or the biggest market in Massachusetts is the black market. Nobody is stopping the black market. One of the reasons I wanted to speak is there's one thing we don't want in New Hampshire is the black market. The only thing stopping these kids from getting all these smoking devices is the vape shops. Vape shops are doing the diligence, they're checking the IDs, P21. One thing you hear from every vape shop owner, we try our level best and we catch so many people day in and day out, checking the IDs, stopping. The problem is some of the other places where they find them, nobody checks IDs and so on and on. Another thing I wanted to, Mr. Vitelli already said this, but I had it on my list. None of the schools were open, so I have no idea how they got the record of last year, how the kids are getting hold of this device. So I would love to know if anybody can ask that question and find out how they got the numbers if none of the schools were open. Lastly, I personally see the invoices and I know how much tax New Hampshire is making out of this and how much benefit is going towards the economy of New Hampshire. At this time, with all these job losses, you know, it will really hurt to let my employees go and who are dependent on the paycheck for their families. I would strongly urge to reconsider this bill going forward. And I will yield my time for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you so much for coming today. Jen?
Next up, we have Kate Fry.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. I will be very brief because I know that you've had quite a bit of testimony today. First of all, I want to thank Senator Waters for bringing this bill forward, and of course the kids at Dover Youth to Youth who do a great job advocating for policy. While we support House, I'm here today to speak in support of Senate Bill 62, which includes a prohibition of the sale of flavored e-cigarettes and e-cigarette cartridges, but we would like to include an amendment that includes menthol products as well. We're not taking a position on the disposal of the electronic cigarette at this time. You've heard the data. I won't repeat it. It is a serious issue in New Hampshire. A lot of the data that you are hearing are from 2019 and 2020 when kids were in school. While this bill is a step in the right direction, we do feel there needs to be a more comprehensive policy, which includes all tobacco flavors, including menthol and all tobacco products, not e-cigarettes. There's a lot of disparities that we're seeing among those, among youth and minorities with menthol cigarette marketing. The greater popularity of menthol cigarette among African Americans, youth, and other minorities is a direct result of a decades-long marketing campaign by the tobacco industry. Because New Futures is committed to preventing youth use of addictive products and improving racial health disparities for historically marginalized groups and ensuring all grant-sayers are healthier now and into the future. And for these reasons, we support SB 62, but we do ask for an amendment that includes all menthol products. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Next up, we have Tim Andrews.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this testimony. I'll try and keep this brief. I'd like to address some of the misunderstandings that I think some proponents of this bill have, because this bill should be dealt with on the basis of science and what data shows. And the data is now overwhelmingly clear and supported by hundreds of peer-reviewed studies all over the world that e-cigarettes are a technology that is considerably safer than smoking. According to Public Health England's analysis of all of the studies, it's 95% safer than conventional cigarettes. The Royal College of Physicians similarly came up with the same number. Georgetown University Medical Center commissioned a group of 15 of the US's top cancer scientists, and they determined that if the majority of smokers switched to electronic cigarettes, 6.6 million lives would be saved in the next 10 years, 6.6 million lives in the United States. What we should be doing as a public health priority is encouraging smokers to quit through these products. And they are twice as effective as other nicotine replacement therapies. Nicotine isn't the issue. We give people patches and gums. This is a question of what's the most effective way of helping smokers quit. It was said previously that flavors are a gateway. This is partially true, and people smoke vape for the flavors. This is partially true. Flavors are critical to helping adults quit, but they don't actually matter to teens. Flavor bans have had no impact on young adults everywhere they have been tried. Research has surveyed teens and has found only 5% who have ever tried an e-cigarette care about flavors. 5%. Surveys of non-smoking teens, when they asked them to express interest in vapes, an average weighting of only 0.4 out of 10, so practically nothing, was what they found mattered in terms of flavors. Flavors don't impact youth vaping rates. Flavors help adults quit. All of the studies show this. There are over 30 of the world's leading medical associations throughout the world who have endorsed this as the most effective quit smoking tool possible. So while I recognize the good intentions behind this bill, and I applaud this, good intentions can't trump science and data. The data and the science here is so overwhelming, and the data shows that if this bill passes, more people will smoke and more people will die as a result. So I implore the members of the committees to actually look at the scientific evidence and not simply debate here about emotional stories. And don't think that because an e-cigarette looks like a cigarette, it is even remotely similar. It's not. It is 95% safer. It will help smokers quit. Myths like popcorn lung have been completely debunked. There has not been a single case of popcorn lung in a vapor. And in fact, a conventional cigarette has 750 times the amount of that substance than a vape does. So I would like to thank the committee once again for your time and for all your service in these difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Jen?
Next up is Lindsay Stroud.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you. Chairman French, members of the committee, thank you again for letting me testify. My name is Lindsay Stroud. I'm a policy analyst with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. I have submitted written testimony, so I'll keep this as brief as possible. I did want to first point out that the sponsor brought up a couple statistics, and I wanted to kind of explain those to you. So his New Hampshire numbers actually came from the 2019 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and the national numbers are actually from the 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey, which actually saw a 28.4% decline in e-cigarette use among high school students between 2019 and 2020. So he was correct in 2019. 33% of high school students in New Hampshire had used an e-cigarette at least one occasion, but it should be noted that over 66% of those same teenagers reported not using an e-cigarette in the 30 days prior to the survey. Also, youth combustible use is at record lows. In 2019, 5.5% of high school students in New Hampshire reported current cigarette use. This is a 40.9% decrease from 2015 and an 84.7% decrease from 1995. It should be noted that the New Hampshire's Youth Risk Behavior Survey doesn't include questions about flavors or reasons why youth use e-cigarettes, but other state surveys do. Notably, Rhode Island and Vermont both have those. And what you often see in this data is that flavors are often cited like 3 down. It's usually number 1 reason is friends or family members are using them. The second reason is other, and then flavors is 3rd. Existing flavor bans haven't been that helpful in reducing youth vapor use, at least seen in San Francisco, which banned flavors in 2018. Youth vaping increased between 2017 and 2019, but also youth combustible use increased by 38.3% between 2017 and 2019 in San Francisco. I know that there was an amendment to include menthol cigarettes. It should be noted that Massachusetts has done this, and New Hampshire has seen a huge increase in tobacco tax revenue since then. Actually, for the first 6 months of fiscal year 2021, the state has collected $130.6 million in tax revenue, which is 66% of what the state collected in the whole fiscal year of 2019. And perhaps, you know, if lawmakers really want to address youth usage, they should spend more of existing tobacco monies towards tobacco control programs. Between 2000 and 2020, New Hampshire has received an estimated $920.4 million in tobacco tax settlement payments. During that same time period, the state spent only $14.5 million in tobacco control programs. That's 1.3% of what the MSA monies the state received in the same time period. To kind of put it into a better perspective, the money that the state has allocated in the past 20 years towards tobacco control programs is only 5% of what the state received in tobacco taxes in 2020. It's laudable to address use of age-restricted products, as well as the use of deadly combustible cigarettes, but New Hampshire must allocate additional funding from revenue generated from existing tobacco sources. Education and health departments must work in tandem with tobacco and vapor product retailers to ensure that there are no sales to minors. And come up with solutions to address use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Jen?
Next up is Guy Bentley.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chair French, and thank you to all the committee for allowing me the opportunity to speak about this today. My name is Guy Bentley. I'm Director of Consumer Freedom at the Reason Foundation, which is a non-partisan, non-profit public policy think tank. And just to give you a brief bit of context about the current state of play of e-cigarette regulation in the country and some of the data that was just mentioned previously, it is worth noting that e-cigarette products are regulated by the FDA. These products are under the agency's review, and the agency assesses e-cigarette product applications on a whole variety of things, including their safety, efficacy, and potential threat to youth. If the FDA finds that e-cigarette products are net harmful to public health because they encourage youth use, they're going to be withdrawn from the market. However, if that is not found to be the case, they will be allowed onto the market as, quote, appropriate for the protection of public health. As has already been said, the tobacco age has been raised to 21, and the FDA did remove sweet and fruit flavors in pod and cartridge-based e-cigarettes some time ago now. And as the previous speaker was saying, youth vaping has fortunately fallen substantially, almost 28%. And also building on what some of the other speakers have said, it is often instinctual to believe that flavors are attracting kids to try and use these products, even though those use numbers are falling quite dramatically. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention did do analysis on this, asking why youth initiate vaping products. And overwhelmingly, the answers were curiosity and followed by friends and family members use them. And this very much plays into the into previous work we've seen on why kids initiate, for instance, drug or alcohol use. I would also just like to mention a few other things because there has been more recent data about the effect of e-cigarette flavors and the potential of e-cigarette flavor bans. According to a study from researchers at Yale School of Public Health, the use of e-cigarette flavors is positively associated with smoking cessation outcomes for adults, but not associated with increased youth smoking. Also, the latest Cochrane review, which is essentially the gold standard of international evidence-based medicine, has concluded that e-cigarettes containing nicotine will increase the number of people who quit smoking compared to the traditional nicotine replacement therapies that we are familiar with. And just to end on another study from the Yale School of Public Health, which analyzed various kinds of tobacco regulations and flavor bans and tried to estimate their effects on the population, they found that, quote, a ban on flavored e-cigarettes would drive smokers to combustible cigarettes, which have been found to be the more harmful way of getting nicotine, end quote. Nicotine, while an addictive substance, is not the primary agent which causes smoking-related diseases. Alternatives like e-cigarettes allow smokers to go from the most harmful tobacco product to one of the least harmful. I certainly hope that we can continue to drive down the rates of youth vaping, but also hopefully members will consider the benefits these products have to adults and the potential unintended consequences of a full-scale prohibition. And that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. And any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. When you're giving the testimony, we have a number of speakers left. Try to keep it short and try not to repeat what you've already heard. And thank you very much. Go ahead.
Next up is Gregory Connolly.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Gregory Conley, and I currently serve as the president of a nonprofit advocacy group, the American Vaping Association. And we are going to give testimony that after an hour and 15 minutes of listening to the same subject will not cite a single study. Our written testimony goes into the studies that show that flavors do help adult smokers quit. And it also details, one, what the FDA is doing and how there is a PMTA, a pre-market review process going on. And two, the new restrictions on internet sales that are going into effect at the federal level that will have impacts on New Hampshire as well. I want to tell a brief personal story. I live in New Jersey, where there was a bill rushed through just at the end of a legislative session to ban flavors in vaping products. I can testify to the fact that people have either gone back to cigarettes or they are through Venmo, Cash App, people going over to the bridge to Philadelphia. The ones that want it, they are getting it, including teenagers and youth. With regard to hazardous waste, the national EPA is well aware of the issue of nicotine and battery disposals. They've briefed state environmental departments around the country. We've had discussions with different, like the New Mexico environmental department, about reaching out to different shops to make sure people are aware. It seems like the law that is existing today is more than enough to educate and, if necessary, to enforce against bad actors. And after a minute and a half, I'm going to end with the words, don't be Massachusetts, don't be New Jersey. That's a good guiding rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You are a shining example for everyone to follow.
I try my best.
Any questions from the committee? None. Thank you very much. Jen?
Okay, next up we have Joe Stack, but I'm not seeing him on the list. So Mr. Stack, if you are on the call, if you could raise your hand virtually or press *9 if you're calling in. In the meantime, we're going to go on to Tom Praisall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tom Praisall from Demers and Praisall, here today representing Reynolds American. In the hopes of getting a gold star from the chairman myself, as much of what I was going to say has been stated before, I'll keep my comments brief. The bill as introduced bans any flavoring with the exception of menthol. However, the FDA currently prohibits any flavored cartridge other than tobacco and menthol. And I see the amendment here bans all e-liquid flavoring, and so that would essentially cease the sale of any vapor products in the state of New Hampshire. Also, I was going to touch on the PMTA process, but the previous speaker also stated that. So I'll make myself available to the committee if they have any questions. In the meantime, I'll end my testimony there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the next speaker.
Okay, we also have Richard Regazio. I am not seeing him on as well. So if you could raise your hand, Mr. Regazio. In the meantime, we'll go on to Harry Shaw. Mr. Shaw, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm with East West Distributors. We're out of Seabrook, New Hampshire. We're a wholesaler. I just wanted to make it really quick. We have seen a huge increase in tax revenue since this vape tax went into effect last year. It has been helped us as a business. We have been able to hire more people. Our tax revenue has definitely increased by almost 40%, the tobacco tax revenue. What I would like the committee to think about is, before we act on this, that we, in these times when most businesses in the state of New Hampshire are struggling, we are creating a tax revenue that's helping these businesses. Just to just think about it before we actually make a decision on it. All right. Thank you. Actually, I do have Richard Regazio. His cam was not working. Can I add him as well? He was just the next one in line.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Regazio, owner of East West Distributors, a small tobacco and vape product distributor out of New Hampshire. I also own 10 retail stores in New Hampshire. I'm opposed to the flavor ban, but I was always for moving the age to 21. And actually, probably 10 years ago, when the Dover Youth was trying to increase the tax rate on flavored cigars, I brought that up to them. I said, if you really want to get out of the high schools, move it to 21. Flavored cigars are still available, by the way. It just costs more. My business employs approximately 100 employees, which 90% are from New Hampshire, are New Hampshire residents. What we learned from Massachusetts flavor ban was all it did was shift a huge amount of customers and revenue to our state. At the same time, it destroyed small business in the state of Massachusetts. My wholesale and retail business has been up over 40 to 50% increase since this has happened, which brought my payroll up 25%. And as a wholesaler, our tax revenue to the state up close to 50%. By banning a federally legal product, all you're doing is sending other people to other states or online purchases, all while destroying small businesses in New Hampshire. A lot of vape shop owners in New Hampshire were ex-smokers, and they got into the business to get people off cigarettes. This will put them out of business. I also think the state of New Hampshire should just follow the federal guidelines. There's a PMT approval, which you've heard about, and that's pretty much it. I think we should just follow the federal guidelines and see let them handle this.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Thank you. Again, is at the end of the list. We have some hands raised. If they would like to speak, if you haven't spoken yet, go ahead, Jen.
Okay, so we also had a Samuel Metivier. signed up to speak, but I don't see him as well. So Mr. Metavier, if you're here, if you could raise your hand. So first person with their hand up we have is Kyle Whitman.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you guys all for your time. I'm coming to you guys today, primarily in two parts. One being a very disgruntled employee of a vapor shop, and then next, as an even more disgruntled citizen of the state. My colleagues and counterparts have done a great job giving you guys all the facts that you need to know to understand that this is just absolutely smoke and mirrors. I want to talk to you guys about experience in this call today, since it started at 1 o'clock. I've seen a few different customers, but two of them really stuck out to me. One of which was a 63-year-old woman who came in because she smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day and she needed to stop. Now, anybody who hears that I just sold this woman a device that's going to help her not have to rely on smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day should be excited about that. That's a beautiful thing. Excuse me. And watching this meeting go on, at one point I watched, Senator French kind of make a face when the doctor said something about banning all tobacco. And personally, that's the same thing that we're doing every single time we have to fight this legislation with you guys, right? Like, why? Why is this a thing? Ultimately, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, it bothers me that we're even having this conversation. We are adults. We are an adult program, a product. I'm sorry. We police ourselves in this industry unlike any other industry I have ever seen. Okay, if you're not 21, you can leave. It's that simple. Now, the Declaration of Independence allows me life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And through the stroke of a pen, our paid officials are trying to take that from us, and it's unacceptable. We don't forget these sort of things. We're here trying to make a living due to strict regulations. And I know it's no one's fault because nobody expected we were supposed to have this pandemic. I was the general manager of 5 vape shops before this started. I'm now the general manager of 1 vape shop. I've had to tell 15 people, sorry, you don't have a job anymore. Please, if I can help you apply for unemployment, I would love to. If you guys pass this bill, the remaining 4 employees that I have will not have jobs. We cannot survive this. The second person that I had today drove up from Massachusetts to spend $290 with me because he hates the state he lives in now. It's unacceptable that paid public officials are going to tell us what we can and cannot do with our bodies. At the end of the day, do you guys want to lose all of that tax revenue? And that's what it boils down to. This gentleman and many like him come into our store and tell us, I hate my state. I hate my governor. I hate the senators. You don't want a New Hampshire full of people who hate you. Okay. We are the live free or die state. Why are we having this conversation? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none. Jen?
Okay, next up we have someone who's under the name of Celtics 21. So if you could please identify yourself for the record before you begin your testimony.
Yes, this is Joe Stack. You tried calling me before. I'm a 57-year-old male from Merrimack, New Hampshire. I moved up to Merrimack about 4.5 years ago because I don't like Massachusetts anymore either. But I want to get right to the meat of it. I won't repeat things I've already heard. Some of the big things is I keep hearing about the youth, and I understand that. We don't want them to have these things. That's why the age is 21, as it is for alcohol. But you go into the New Hampshire State Liquor Store and there are flavored seltzers that are alcoholic. I buy peanut butter bourbon there. We can't penalize legitimate adults of this state because other people can't enforce. Parents and schools need to enforce this stuff. Just like when I was in high school and people would get caught smoking. When they started suspending you, people stopped smoking in the bathrooms. I don't want to be penalized. I've been off cigarettes for 6 years, but I do continue to vape. I'm on the lowest that there is, which is a 3. I use the kind that you have to fill yourself, not these jewels, which I think are at the root of all of it, these little small disposable ones from the convenience stores is what all the kids were using. And it's funny, I have a nephew in Massachusetts, and I asked him, what about your friends that vape now that they can't get the flavored? They're buying 2 packs of cheroots that are flavored cigars. They're smoking pineapple cigars. Do you really think it makes any kind of sense that we should get rid of the flavored vapes when you still sell cigarettes, which are a lot worse? And I thank you, esteemed members. I appreciate you hearing me today. And I really hope that cooler heads prevail on this flavor ban.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
So Senator, the last person I see with their hands up is Dr. Butnitz. I'm not sure if they are hoping to speak again or have their hand up by mistake. Would you like me to call on them?
We've already heard from, we're going to keep it at that, I think.
Okay. So that will conclude everyone we have signed up to speak then.
Great. So,
Oh, we just have another hand go up, Mr. Jeff Barry.
take that last speaker.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, committee members. I didn't realize I didn't have my hand up. So I'm calling from New York State. I want to put my 2 cents in because I did have 4 vapor shops in New York State up until April of 2019. I closed my last one in September of 2020. Now, I agree with just about all the testimonies that they've said with vapor being better, 99% safer, all that. The bottom line for me is don't be like New York. I had 4 shops in New York. I closed them because of the flavor bans and the taxes, primarily the flavor bans. I could absorb the tax. And I'm trying to be brief. I live 5 minutes from the Pennsylvania border. Guess what I did? I opened 2 stores in Pennsylvania. I pay the tax in Pennsylvania. 2018, I paid $185,000 in sales tax for the state of New York. 2020, I paid $175,000 in sales tax into New York. Take a guess how much I pay this year. None. Now, in New York, in Pennsylvania, I'm doing 3 times the volume that I did in New York. Why? Because all the vape shops in New York are closed, and I'm the only one. I have 2 shops right across the border. Both of them less than a mile from the New York border. Pennsylvania's getting my tax money. So it's not a question if you're not stopping anybody from vaping. There is not a question whether vaping is 95% safer than smoking. I smoked for 22 years. I've been vaping for 13 years. I have documentation from neuroscientists and health scientists or medical doctors claiming that vaping is better than smoking. If you would like, I can submit those testimonies. Well, it's just paperwork to former smokers that are customers of mine, that they're happy they're vaping, that they've done their research, that they've determined that vaping is better than smoking, that they'll serve them, that they'll help them through surgeries. So just don't be like New York. I mean, that's really the bottom line. You're not going to stop anybody. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Okay, I'm going to close the hearing on Senate Bill 62. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess so the staff can reset, and we'll be taking up Senate Bill 64 when we get back. Thank you all.
I should call you later in the middle of
Everyone feel better?
Yes.
You smoking menthol there, Frenchie?
I was calling my vape supplier. Yeah, I smoked menthol when I first started smoking, so I can understand what they're saying. Gave me kind of a deep hack, so when I changed to Marlboros, I got the more upper respiratory hack. It was easier to pop it out. So if we're all packed, we'll come out of recess. I'd like to open actually Senate Bill 63 and recess it immediately. We'll take it up first thing on next Monday at 1 p.m. when the sponsor's ready with his amendment. So we'll close that for now, recess it for now, and open Senate Bill 64 and have the sponsor. There she is.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is Becky Whitley, Senator for District 15, which includes the wonderful communities of Concord, Henniker, Hopkinton, and Warner. So I have the honor today to introduce Senate Bill 64. This is a COVID-related relief bill that extends FMLA, which is unpaid leave, as you know, for employees of employers with 15 or more employees, with additional language for the situation where a worker's child is sent home from school or childcare, even if they're not in quarantine. And as the mother of a 7-year-old child who is in first grade, I understand the plight of a lot of working families right now who are dealing with very complex family obligations and work obligations as they try to keep their jobs, deal with remote schooling. Even if children are in school, it is typically on a hybrid schedule where the school is keeping really close track of any sort of illness. So it could be that a child is sent home with a runny nose and has to stay at home until they get a negative COVID test. So this is something that's just really impacting a lot of working families right now. So you may know that federal law sets the FMLA requirements at 50 or more employees, which, as we know, excludes a lot of New Hampshire workers. So this bill extends those FMLA requirements only for COVID-related reasons, as you can see in the bill, and extends it for employers with 15 or more employees. Other states, as you may know, have gotten much lower with that dip, but we felt that this number is better for New Hampshire and for our small businesses, and is also consistent with the number of employees that the ADA applies to. So it will be consistent for New Hampshire businesses because it's the same number of employees for the ADA. So I do have an amendment that I sent to Aaron that makes this bill effective upon passage. Because this is a COVID-related bill, it really needs to help families now. We know families are struggling now and need this kind of support. So again, this is a job protection bill. It's not a paid leave bill. It's a job protection bill for families that are really struggling right now to meet the demands of working families. I also want to point out that this bill has public health benefits because it encourages people to stay home if they're sick and if their children are sick or if they've been exposed to COVID. And we know that we need folks to stay home and keep everyone else safe if we're going to really slow the spread of disease, to keep our schools open, and to eventually fully reopen the economy. So I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions from the committee? Senator Gannon.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Whitley. And it's probably, the other 4 senators are probably more on top of it than I am. because I wasn't in the group the last 2 years. Would this money come from COVID relief funds?
So this is not, there's no money attached to it. This is FMLA, so it's not paid leave. But you
Okay.
do make a good point that in the very first COVID relief package, there was federal mandatory paid leave that was coupled with a tax credit. Now, the paid leave, the mandatory paid leave was not extended in the second relief package, but the tax credit was extended. So even though this is unpaid leave, this should be no cost for businesses because they can get that tax credit under the second relief package.
Thank you.
Any others? Seeing none, thank you very much, Senator.
So Senator, the only person we have signed up to speak is Senator Prentice.
Great.
Thank you very much, Chairman French, members of the committee. I'll briefly address you with my comments in support of Senate Bill 64. Starting back with H1N1, the working world started to really embrace the importance of not having employees that were ill come to work. And also not having sick children in school, meaning that their employees had to stay home and care for their children. Now with COVID and this long-term global pandemic, which is on our doorsteps, it's become more important that those who are ill stay home, that those whose children are ill stay home, that those who are obviously quarantined, they're supposed to be at home. There should not be, employees should not be in a position where they have to choose whether to go to work or not because they may lose their job. As Senator Whitley said, this is a bill that is for working families. That's, it's supporting the employees, but it also supports the employers from my perspective, because it shows their commitment to the health and well-being of the community and a safe workplace for all. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. No other hands, no other speakers? Then I'll close this hearing on Senate Bill 64. I'll take a motion to go to executive session.
I'll move that.
We have a motion by Senator Bradley and seconded by Senator Gannon. So what do you folks want to do? You want to take up Senate Bill 35, I would like to.
Yeah, I'll move Senate Bill 35 on to pass.
I'll second.
Bradley moved to pass, second by Kavanaugh. We'll take a roll call vote. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
and Senator French also says yes.
I'll move consent.
Second.
Consent by Bradley, seconded by Susie. Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
and I say yes. Senator French says yes. Who wants to take it out?
It's Senator. I'll take it out.
Okay, Senator Kavanaugh will take that out. We'll move on to Senate Bill 44. Everyone ready to discuss that one?
Which one's that, Harold?
44 Workforce Pathway Program. You ready to talk about it, or you want to put it off?
No, I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, I'll bring it up then. Senate Bill 44.
So I would move on to pass. I've spoken to Josh about this going to the Finance Committee. I think it's a good idea. I want Finance to review it and have the community colleges come in and really outline how it's going to get paid for. I think that is appropriate, given that it's a a new initiative, but based on all the testimony we heard, I think we should move forward with it, at least to begin with, and see where finance ends up.
Do you think possibly it'd be better to make it into a study committee?
I think,
yeah.
I'm okay with the bill as it was introduced.
So when they're like, they'll escalate, so I have the 370 was the VA one, there's 370, so is that what they have to escalate?
I'll second if you need a second.
No, I'm listening for, I don't think that's my background.
Oh, that's probably me, sorry.
So I heard
I think the proponents of the bill made a pretty good case for it. I think that given everything that the economy is going through and, the need to, retrain workers, the community college does a pretty good job of, worker training in a lot of different industries. So I have no trouble with it. I just want to know how it's paid for.
So do I have a motion? Senator Susie?
I second Senator Bradley's motion of ought to pass. The bill itself does set up the Workforce Pathway Commission, and there were a number of speakers who have already been involved with programs that the community college administers, most notably the auto dealers and others who said that there is already a good system in play. This would just help to standardize it. And it would be a good idea moving forward. I have no objection to it going to finance to look at the money and have them come up with that. I think they had a good explanation for it. I think it's a solid piece of legislation.
I'll be voting against it. With the auto dealers, I'm sure they'd like it because right now they're paying for the workforce training. Why not have someone else pay for it? Same with the nursing training. I know numbers of people who have been paid back by the nursing homes when they get the 12-week degree. So of course the businesses are going to say, if someone else is paying for the training, sure. But I think these jobs are already available and there's training available and the state doesn't need to do it.
I also feel I think this has no end to it. This was brought forward as COVID related. We're going to be through that and this program is going to continue. I personally would feel better to make it into a study committee and bring it up next year, see where we're at. We have a lot of programs as it is. That's where I'm on it. Ready for a vote? Senator Bradley?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Susie?
Yes.
Senator Gannon?
No.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator French says no. 3-2. Who'd like to take it out?
I'll take it out.
Senator Bradley will take it out. Now I'd like to take up Senate Bill 61.
Remind me of 61, Harold, and I'll pull it.
Collective bargaining agreements.
Thank you.
Senator Reagan's bill.
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
Motion ITL.
Motion of ITL, seconded by Susie. All in, Senator Bradley?
No.
Senator Gannon?
No.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Susie?
Yes.
And Senator French says no. Do we have another motion?
Well, I would like to, can we discuss it for a second too, though? Because I thought the Attorney General came up about a possible fiscal impact. Is this something that we can send to finance as well?
The Attorney General and I think all the committee got a letter. Hang on a minute. And I think in that letter, they said that they would be able to deal with all the issues brought up by it. I'm looking for it right now. I think it was sent to everybody. If not, I'll make sure it gets to everybody.
Could Could we wait to see that before we vote then? Because I don't recall. I mean, if it's in OneDrive, I just missed it then because I just didn't see it.
Not to interrupt, but I didn't see that letter. I didn't get a copy sent to me.
No, so then we probably don't have it.
Well, I think I've got it here. Hang on a minute. All right, I can read it to everybody. Dear Chairman French and members of the Senate Commerce Committee, Assistant Attorney General Gregory Albert testified today with respect to Senate Bill 61. We are prepared to defend and enforce the bill as presented today. The purpose of the testimony was simply to alert the committee to the potential for an increase in the workload of the Department of Justice in a subject matter area where it currently lacks any jurisdiction or enforcement authority. The extent of any increase will, of course, depend on the volume of complaints received. If it is helpful to the committee, we stand ready to identify the resources that might be required should Senate Bill 61 be enacted, or to provide any other technical assistance. Please let me know. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Kate Giaquinto, Director of Communications and Legislative Liaison, and somebody we know well. And it's on DOJ stationery.
Yeah, so I don't think it requires a FN attachment. We have a motion, then we can discuss it. Senator Bradley made a motion to vote to pass, seconded by Senator Gannon. Discussion. Yes, Senator Susie.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I thank Senator Bradley for reading the letter. As I said, I still haven't received a copy. But the letter does not address the two other points raised by the Assistant Attorney General who testified, which is number one, it says shall investigate and takes away that discretion of the Attorney General, which I think is an important issue. The other one was that it provided concurrent jurisdiction to the county attorney, which, as he stated, had the potential in some instances to lead to double jeopardy. And I think those are fatal issues with regard to this bill. I just don't think it's ready for prime time at this point.
Senator Bradley.
The Attorney General's letter stands for its on its own merit. I think if this were to pass and we become a right to work state, they would clearly, according to this letter, have the ability to defend against any litigation. So
that's how I hear it. So, any other discussion? Then we'll vote on not to pass. Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator Susie.
No.
Senator Kavanaugh.
No.
Senator French says yes. 3-2. Senator Bradley, would you like to take that out?
You know what? Let somebody else take it out.
Okay, I'll take it out. Now, Senate Bill 62. An act relative to electronic cigarettes.
I'll move in expedient.
Yelled by Senator Bradley, seconded by Gannon. Any discussion? We'll take a vote. Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Senator Susie.
No.
Senator French says yes. 4-1. And who'd like to take that out?
I'll take this one out.
You got it, Jeb? Okay,
Yeah.
Jeb will take it out. And lastly, let's take up Senate Bill 64.
I would move on Senate Bill 64, re-refer. And when it comes to the floor, I would, propose that we table it. Here's why.
under the CARES Act, up until 12/31/2020, there was, under federal law, paid family leave. It has been extended on a voluntary basis, as Senator Whitley said, through the end of March. An employer has to opt in, and then they're reimbursed 100% of the cost to provide this through a tax credit. So basically, the federal program already exists at no cost to the employer, and it covers 2 weeks of leave, paid leave, okay? And it doesn't matter how many employees the business has. So there's some key differences between Senate Bill 64 and the program as it currently exists now. First of all, this would be under Senate Bill 64, it would drop from 50 to 15. However, the federal plan that's in place for COVID covers all employees. Under Senate Bill 64, there is no paid leave. The federal plan is 100% through the tax credit. So if my guess is that any new federal stimulus plan, and I think it's pretty likely with a new administration and divided Congress, that there will be something, despite the fact that there's a divided Congress, and I would anticipate that this would continue. I think that re-referring it and then tabling it will allow us up until crossover to see what may or may not happen, and if it becomes necessary to do something in New Hampshire, depending on whether the situation vis-a-vis COVID improves, how the vaccine is lowering caseloads, how school reopenings are going, all sorts of issues that are, currently raised by COVID. We could address it then, but I think it's premature to pass it right now.
Okay. Is there a second to re-refer? Senator Gannett? We have a motion to re-refer by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Gannon. Any other discussion? Senator Susie?
I just think we're missing the mark if we re-refer. I think the better solution would be to actually pass the bill and let it move forward, because in the short term, particularly with the amendment that was offered by Senator Whitley, we have the opportunity to help people preserve their jobs. I understand there are other dynamics going on at the federal level that may impact leave time, but I think it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't take action on this now. And I think people across the state would benefit from it. So I'm going to be voting against that motion, would hope instead we would pass it.
Thank you. We'll take the vote. Senator Bradley?
Yes.
Senator Susie?
No.
Senator Gannon?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
No.
And Senator French says yes. 3-2, Senator Bradley can take that out.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it for our list, I believe. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Harold, one question. What do we, and this is really more a question for Aaron or Jen, what do we have for bills that we haven't taken action on still? It's just Senate Bill 68?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. My understanding is, just for everybody who's interested, Senator Hennessy was meeting with, remotely with the executive director of our Human Rights Commission, as well as the attorney from Washington who testified today. So hopefully there'll be resolution on that one.
And do I have a motion?
Oh, I'll move. Sorry, Harold. I'll move.
Motion by Senator Bradley, second by Senator Susie to come out of executive session. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator French says yes. So I think that wraps it up for today. Yeah, 2 hours, not bad. Heard a lot of testimony. Take a motion to recess. Senator Kavanaugh motions to recess.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Bradley. Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
and Senator French will say yes. Thank you all very much. We'll see you next Monday, if not before.
Get your shovel out, Harold. I'll see you at 6 in the morning.
Sounds good.